The cargo ship Thunderchild drifted through the darkness of space, its engines humming quietly as it carried supplies from Earth to the outer colonies. Captain Tom Reed stood on the bridge, his weathered hands wrapped around a mug of coffee as he watched the stars streak by. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Mark Wells, his first officer. The younger man's fingers danced across the control panel, bringing up readings on the main screen. Multiple energy signatures ahead. They don't match any known human vessels. Reed leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he studied the data. 20 years of space travel had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, they were screaming that something was wrong. "Show me visual," he ordered, setting down his coffee. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a scene that made everyone on the bridge freeze. Ahead of them, sleek silver ships with strange organic curves were firing upon what looked like a small space station. The defending ships were beautiful things, all crystal and light, but they were being torn apart by the attackers. "Those are definitely not human ships," Engineer Kate Miller said from her station. "The energy readings are off the charts. Should we alter course, Captain?" Reed watched as another defender exploded in a shower of crystalline fragments. His hands tightened on the railing. The Thunderchild was a cargo ship, not a warship. Their only weapons were meant for asteroid defense and dealing with space pirates. But something in him couldn't just watch this slaughter. "Get me ship-wide," he ordered. When the comm clicked on, he spoke clearly. "All hands, this is the captain. We've encountered what appears to be an attack on an unknown species by hostile forces. We're about to do something incredibly stupid and incredibly human. Battle stations." The bridge crew looked at him with determined expressions. They knew the risks, but they also knew they couldn't just watch. "Kate, what can you give me from the engines?" Reed asked. "More than they'll expect from a cargo ship, sir," she replied with a grim smile. "I've been tinkering." "Mark, plot us an intercept course. Let's show these attackers what happens when you push humans into a corner." The Thunderchild accelerated, its modified engines pushing it faster than any normal cargo vessel should move. As they got closer, they could see that the attacking ships belonged to a species that seemed to favor biological-looking technology. Their ships looked like metal predators. The defending aliens, visible through the station's windows, had an almost ethereal appearance. They looked like tall, slender beings made of crystal and light. Their expressions of despair turned to confusion as they spotted the approaching human vessel. "They're hailing us," Mark reported. "Universal translators are working overtime." A musical voice filled the bridge. "Unknown vessel, please retreat. The Ravagers will destroy you. Save yourselves." Reed hit the response button. "This is Captain Tom Reed of the Earth merchant ship Thunderchild. We see you need help, and where we come from, we don't turn our backs on that. But you cannot." The voice seemed confused. "Your ship is not designed for combat." Reed smiled. "Maybe not, but we humans have a long history of using things in ways they weren't designed for. Mark, show them what our asteroid defense system can do when we get creative." The Thunderchild's defensive turrets, modified by Kate's engineering genius, sprang to life. Instead of the standard anti-meteor flak, they fired concentrated plasma bursts, a modification that would have given Earth safety inspectors a heart attack. The first shot caught a Ravager ship completely by surprise, punching through its organic-looking hull. The enemy vessels turned toward this new threat, clearly confused by the audacity. The Coalition Emergency Council chamber fell silent as Captain Reed and his crew entered. The room was kept at what the aliens considered comfortable conditions, but to the humans, it felt like a sauna. Sweat rolled down their faces, yet none of them complained. Ambassador Brightwing, a tall being that seemed made of living crystal, stood at the center of the chamber. Light rippled through their transparent form as they spoke, the universal translator converting their musical tones into English. "You saved many lives today," Brightwing said, "but our scanners reveal something disturbing about your species." Reed exchanged glances with Kate and Mark. They'd expected something like this. First contact scenarios were always tricky, but this one was complicated by the fact that they'd shown up shooting. According to our readings, another council member spoke up, their crystalline form glowing red with concern. You come from a Class 12 death world. This cannot be correct. Earth? Reed shrugged. What's wrong with Earth? The council chamber erupted in musical tones of alarm as a holographic image of Earth appeared in the center of the room. Red markers highlighted various features that made the coalition species uncomfortable. Your gravity is 1.5 times higher than standard habitable norms, Brightwing explained. Your weather systems regularly produce winds exceeding 100 units of velocity. Your planet hosts over 500 species of large predators, and your temperature variations exceed safe ranges by 200%. Kate couldn't help but laugh, quickly turning it into a cough when Reed shot her a look. Sorry, but that's just home. We call those things weather and wildlife. The council members' crystalline bodies flickered with patterns of concern and fascination. One of them stepped forward, their form pulsing with blue light. You fought the Ravagers in a cargo ship, they said. Our warriors, trained for combat, struggle against them. Yet your merchant vessel prevailed. How? Reed walked to the hologram of Earth, pointing at various features. See these storms. We learned to build things that last. Those predators, they taught us to always be ready. The gravity makes us stronger than we look. Earth isn't kind, so we adapted. But the conditions in this very chamber, another council member chimed in. We set it to our standard comfort levels, yet your bodies are producing excess moisture. Are you not in distress? Mark wiped his brow. This is just a warm day. Humans can function in temperatures from well below freezing to well above what you consider habitable. We're uncomfortable, sure, but we can handle it. The council chamber filled with musical tones of disbelief and wonder. Brightwing approached Reed, their crystalline form casting rainbow patterns on the floor. When the Ravagers attacked, we thought we were doomed. Their ships use biological technology that thrives in conditions we find hostile. Now we understand. You come from a world that would kill us, yet you've mastered it. Reed nodded slowly. On Earth, we have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Every challenge our world threw at us, we overcame. Not because we're special, but because we had no choice. The Ravagers will return, Brightwing said. They always do. Their biological ships grow stronger with each battle. Would your people be willing to help us? The three humans shared a look. They didn't have authority to make such decisions, but they knew their duty. We're just a cargo crew, Reed said, but we'll relay your request to Earth. And until then, the Thunderchild and her crew stand ready to help. It's what humans do. As they left the chamber, Kate whispered to Mark, did we just become humanity's ambassadors by accident? Could be worse, Mark replied with a grin. At least we showed them our good side first, helping others and punching bullies. Reed smiled as he heard them. The coalition might be afraid of Earth's harsh conditions, but they'd soon learn that the same world that made humans tough also taught them compassion. Sometimes the strongest creatures were also the kindest, as long as you didn't threaten what they protected. 3 days after their meeting with the Coalition Council, alarms blared through the space station. The Ravagers had returned, this time targeting the Coalition's largest mining colony in the sector. They're attacking the gravity processing facilities. Brightwing's voice rang through the Thunderchild's bridge. Our people cannot function in those conditions. The miners are trapped. Reed looked at the tactical display. The mining colony was built into a massive asteroid, using artificial gravity to help extract rare minerals. The Ravagers had somehow increased the gravity in several sections to 3 times normal levels. 3 times Earth gravity, Kate said from her engineering station. That's tough, but we can handle it. Remember that training mission to Jupiter's moons? Reed nodded. Mark, get us in there. Kate, break out the heavy-duty exosuits. We're going in. The Thunderchild approached the mining colony as the Ravager ships circled it like hungry sharks. This time, they seemed ready for the human vessel, launching waves of small, organic-looking attack craft. "They've adapted," Mark warned. "Those small craft are new." "So have we," Reed replied. "Kate, show them your latest upgrades." The Thunderchild's hull sparked with electricity as Kate activated her newest defense system. The first wave of organic attackers hit an invisible barrier and literally fried, their biological components unable to handle the electrical shock. "Ha," Kate's voice carried pride. "My electric fence works. Let's see their bioships handle a few thousand volts." But the real challenge lay inside the mining colony. Reed led a team of 5 crew members, all wearing enhanced exosuits, into the high-gravity zones. The suits, designed for emergency repairs on gas giants, groaned under the strain but held. They found the first group of coalition miners huddled in a processing chamber. The crystalline aliens lay flat on the ground, their forms dulled by the crushing gravity. "We cannot move," one of them managed to say. How are you standing?" "This is actually lighter than some of our training scenarios," Reed replied, trying to sound cheerful as sweat poured down his face inside his helmet. "Let's get you out of here." The humans began carrying the coalition miners to safety, their exosuits whining with the combined weight. Outside, the Thunderchild continued its battle with the Ravager ships, its electric defense system keeping the smaller craft at bay, while its modified weapons targeted the larger vessels. "Captain," Mark's voice came through the comm, "we've got more Ravagers incoming." "But they're not attacking. They're watching." Reed grunted as he lifted another miner. "They're studying us. Learning. These aren't mindless attackers. They're testing our capabilities." "Well," Kate added, "let's show them what happens when you force humans to get creative." She paused. "Captain, what if we reverse the gravity generators? Create a zero-G zone instead?" "The Ravagers' bioships evolved in high gravity," one of the miners whispered. "They cannot handle sudden changes." Reed smiled inside his helmet. "Kate, do it. Mark, get ready. When those ships start floating, hit them with everything we've got." What followed was chaos. The gravity generators reversed, creating pockets of zero gravity throughout the colony. The human team had trained for zero-G operations, but the Ravager ships suddenly found themselves unable to maneuver. Their biological components, evolved for high-gravity environments, failed to adapt quickly enough. The Thunderchild's weapons found easy targets in the drifting Ravager ships. Within minutes, the remaining attackers retreated, leaving behind several destroyed vessels. Later, in the colony's medical bay, Reed watched as coalition medical staff treated their injured miners. Brightwing approached him, their crystalline form glowing with what he had learned was their expression of amazement. "You handled triple gravity, carried our people to safety, and turned our weakness into a weapon," they said. "How do humans become so adaptable?" Reed thought about Earth, about its changing seasons, its varied environments, its countless challenges that forced humanity to think, adapt, and overcome. "We had a good teacher," he replied simply. "Earth never let us take anything for granted. When you grow up on a world that's always trying to kill you, you learn to be ready for anything." As if to emphasize his point, the station's lights flickered, and Kate's voice came over the comm. "Captain, you might want to see this. The Ravagers left something behind. And it's growing." The observation room of the Coalition space station was packed with aliens of various species. They all watched through reinforced windows as Kate worked on the strange organic mass the Ravagers had left behind. She wore no protective gear beyond basic work clothes, while Coalition scientists huddled in their environmental suits. "Are you certain you don't need protection?" one of the scientists asked through their suits' speakers. "The biological sample is producing toxic fumes." Kate wiped sweat from her forehead and grinned. "This smells better than my uncle's garage back on Earth. Besides, humans evolved alongside thousands of toxic plants. We're pretty good at handling nasty chemicals. In another part of the station, Mark stood before a group of coalition tactical officers, explaining Earth's military history. A large screen behind him showed various battle scenarios. "So you're saying," one officer interrupted, their crystalline form flickering with confusion, "that humans fought wars in trenches, in mud and rain, for years? World War I?" Mark nodded. "Not our finest moment as a species, but it taught us a lot about endurance. When the Ravagers trap you in horrible conditions, remember, humans have lived through worse." Meanwhile, Reed sat with Brightwing and other coalition leaders, reviewing data from the recent battle. The organic mass that the Ravagers left behind had turned out to be a kind of living computer, full of tactical information. "Your engineer handled toxic materials without protection," one leader noted. "Your tactical officer speaks of surviving in conditions we find unsurvivable. How do you train your people for such things?" Reed laughed. "Train? Most of this is just normal life on Earth." Kate grew up helping in her family's chemical plant. Mark was a wilderness survival instructor. Earth throws everything at us from birth: extreme weather, dangerous animals, toxic plants. We don't really train for it, we just live it. The coalition leaders shared looks of both horror and fascination. On the main screen, Kate's work revealed more about the Ravagers' biological technology. The living computer contained not just tactical data, but their entire philosophy. "They believe strength comes from adversity." Kate's voice came through the speakers. "They deliberately seek out harsh conditions to evolve their bioships. But they got nothing on Earth's history of natural selection." "Natural selection?" Brightwing asked. Reed pulled up images of Earth's evolutionary history on his tablet. Life on Earth has survived 5 mass extinction events. Everything alive on our world today comes from species tough enough to survive global disasters, including us. The coalition leaders watched in stunned silence as Reed showed them Earth's history: ice ages, meteor impacts, supervolcanoes, and countless other catastrophes that had shaped life on their world. Each disaster, Reed explained, forced life on Earth to adapt or die. Humans, we're the descendants of creatures that survived all of that. And then we got clever enough to start adapting our environment instead of just adapting to it. In the observation room, Kate had made another breakthrough. "Captain," she called over the comm, "I think I know why the Ravagers attacked the Coalition. Their bioships need certain rare minerals to evolve. The same minerals the Coalition mines. But we've offered to trade with them," Brightwing protested. Mark, who had joined the main meeting, shook his head. "They don't want trade. According to their philosophy, they need to take it by force to prove their strength. They're treating the whole galaxy like one big death world." Reed stood up, a plan forming in his mind. "They think they know harsh conditions. They think they know survival. I think it's time we showed them what real Deathworlders can do." "What are you suggesting?" Brightwing asked, their crystalline form shimmering with curiosity. "The Ravagers want to play survival of the fittest." Reed smiled. "Let's introduce them to some Earth-style competition." "Kate, how much of their biotechnology do you understand now?" Kate's grin was audible in her voice. "Enough to give them a really bad day, Captain. Their bioships are tough, but they've never faced anything like Earth bacteria. Want to show them what billions of years of microscopic warfare looks like." The coalition leaders watched in fascination as the humans began planning. They were starting to understand that Earth's harsh conditions had created something unique, a species that didn't just survive adversity, but learned to use it as a tool. The Thunder Child drifted silently through space, its engines cold and dark. Behind it, 3 coalition ships maintained a safe distance. On the bridge, Reed and his crew watched the massive planet growing larger on their main screen. "That's their home base," Kate whispered, though there was no need for quiet in space. "It looks like Australia during summer," Reed finished. "Hostile environment, deadly wildlife, extreme temperatures. No wonder the Coalition couldn't attack it." The planet below them was a Class 13 death world, even more dangerous than Earth. Its atmosphere was thick with toxic gases, its surface covered in active volcanoes and acid lakes. The perfect hiding place for the Ravagers' main fleet. Coalition scans show their primary base is in that mountain range, Mark said, pointing to a spot on the map. The atmospheric pressure there is 5 times Earth normal. The Coalition species would be crushed instantly. Reed nodded. But we're not Coalition species. Kate, how are the modified pressure suits coming along? Ready to go. She patted a heavy-looking suit nearby. I adapted them from deep-sea diving equipment. If they can handle the Mariana Trench, they can handle this. The plan was simple but dangerous. While the Coalition fleet distracted the Ravagers' orbital defenses, a small team from the Thunderchild would infiltrate their base. Kate had prepared a special surprise for their bioships, a specially engineered Earth bacteria that would treat their living technology like a free buffet. Remember, Reed told his volunteer team as they suited up, we're used to about 70% of these conditions from Earth. The other 30% will be rough, but we've trained for worse. The drop pod launched silently from the Thunderchild's cargo bay. Inside, Reed, Kate, Mark, and 2 other crew members braced themselves. As they entered the atmosphere, the pod's exterior began to glow from heat that would melt Coalition ships. Just like a summer day in Phoenix, one of the crew joked, though his voice was tense. They landed in a valley filled with steam vents and bubbling pools of acid. The pressure suits creaked but held. Through their thick faceplates, they could see the Ravagers' organic buildings pulsing like living things. Their bio readings are everywhere, Kate said, checking her scanner. The whole base is alive. It's like one giant organism. Then let's give it indigestion, Reed replied. Mark, you've got point. Kate, prepare your bacterial package. They moved through the hostile landscape, their suits' cooling systems working overtime. The gravity was crushing, making each step a battle. But compared to their training missions in the deep ocean trenches of Earth, it was manageable. Suddenly, they spotted their first Ravager. The alien was huge, its body covered in natural armor. It moved easily through the toxic atmosphere, clearly evolved for this environment. Now we know what we're dealing with, Mark whispered. They look tough, but remember, Earth creatures had to be tougher just to survive Tuesday. They managed to slip past the guards using another Earth trick, patience. Humans were persistence hunters, evolved to outlast their prey. They could wait motionless for hours, something the Ravagers never expected in their high-energy environment. Inside the main structure, they found what they were looking for. The central node of the Ravagers' living fleet. It pulsed with bioelectrical energy, sending commands to ships across the galaxy. This is it, Kate said, preparing her bacterial weapon. 1 dose of Earth's finest microscopic life. Coming up. These bacteria evolved eating sulfur vents at the bottom of our oceans. This stuff will think it's at a 5-star restaurant. Just then, an alarm sounded. A deep organic rumble shook the structure. They've spotted the Coalition fleet, Mark reported. The base is waking up. Reed looked at his team, their faces barely visible through the thick faceplates of their pressure suits. They were sweating, exhausted, and fighting against crushing gravity. But they were also grinning. This was what humans did best, facing impossible odds with determination and clever tricks. Well, Reed said, checking his suit's oxygen levels, let's show them why you don't pick a fight with creatures from a death world. Kate, release your pets. Let's give these Ravagers a taste of Earth's smallest and hungriest inhabitants. The inside of the Ravager base shook as Kate released her bacterial weapon into the central node. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the organic walls began to shudder and pulse with an unhealthy rhythm. How long until it takes effect? Reed asked, keeping his weapon trained on the entrance. Earth bacteria work fast, Kate replied, checking her sensors. They're already multiplying. These walls are practically made of food for them. Suddenly, a group of Ravagers burst into the chamber. They were even more impressive up close, 3 meters tall, with natural armor and multiple limbs adapted for their harsh world. One of them spoke, their voice a deep rumble that the universal translator struggled with. "You dare invade our stronghold. This gravity alone should crush your weak bodies." Mark actually laughed. "Weak? We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. High gravity is just our warm-up exercise." The Ravagers charged. What followed shocked even the humans. Despite their impressive appearance, the Ravagers weren't used to prolonged combat. They lived on a harsh world. Yes, but they relied on their natural advantages and technology. Humans, on the other hand, had spent their entire evolution learning to fight smarter, not just harder. Reed ducked under a swing that would have crushed him, using the high gravity to his advantage. He rolled and came up firing, his movements efficient and controlled. Years of training in Earth's oceans had taught him how to fight in crushing pressure. Kate had taken cover behind some equipment, launching more bacterial pods into different parts of the base. "The walls are already weakening," she shouted. "These little guys are eating through their biotech like it's cotton candy." Mark demonstrated another human advantage, endurance, while the Ravagers launched powerful but increasingly slower attacks. He kept moving, kept fighting. Humans were persistence predators, evolved to outlast their prey. Getting tired, he taunted as one Ravager's attacks became sluggish. "We can do this all day." Literally, humans once hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. The organic base was definitely sick now. The walls were changing color, becoming pale and weak as Earth's bacteria feasted on the living technology. Alarms were blaring throughout the structure, but they sounded wrong, like a creature in pain. "Their ships are failing," came a call from the Coalition fleet in orbit. "The infection is spreading through their network. Their entire fleet is digesting." The Ravager leader roared in fury. "What have you done to our perfect system?" "Perfect." Reed shook his head. "That's your problem. You tried to create the perfect organism for this environment. But life on Earth taught us something different. It's not the strongest that survive. It's the most adaptable." As if to prove his point, the base's gravity control suddenly failed. The crushing pressure lifted, but while the Ravagers struggled to adjust, the humans immediately adapted. They trained for zero-G, high-G, and everything in between. "And here's another Earth lesson," Kate added, launching her final bacterial pod. "Never underestimate the small things. Earth's deadliest creatures aren't the big ones. They're the microscopic ones that can adapt faster than anything else." The Ravager leader looked around at their failing base, at the humans who fought on despite the harsh conditions, and finally seemed to understand. You're not just strong," they said. "You're survivors. Adapters. Like us, but we didn't just adapt to survive." Reed finished. "We learned to protect others, to help them survive too. That's humanity's true power. We don't just conquer challenges, we help others overcome them." The battle was effectively over. The Ravagers' bioships were failing across their territory, their perfect system undone by microscopic life from Earth. But more importantly, they'd learned a crucial lesson about humanity. As the team made their way back to their extraction point, Reed's comm crackled with Brightwing's voice. "The Ravagers are standing down. They're asking to learn from you. They say they've finally found worthy teachers." Reed smiled inside his pressure suit. "Tell them the first lesson is free. True strength isn't about dominating others. It's about helping them stand up to their own challenges." 1 month after the battle at the Ravager stronghold, the Thunderchild's crew stood in a very different kind of chamber. The Coalition had converted one of their largest space stations into a neutral meeting ground. The environmental controls created different zones to accommodate everyone. Coalition crystal beings, Ravager warriors, and human Deathworlders alike. Reed watched as Kate explained Earth farming techniques to a group of fascinated Ravagers. Their once fearsome bioships now served as living greenhouses, learning to grow food instead of weapons. "Your world teaches cooperation even among the smallest life forms, a Ravager scientist said, examining readings from Earth's soil bacteria, creatures working together to survive instead of just competing. We never considered this approach. Nearby, Mark was running a joint training session. Coalition troops and Ravager warriors learned human survival techniques side by side. The sight of crystalline beings and armored giants trying to master Earth rope climbing techniques would have been funny if it wasn't so meaningful. The trick isn't to overpower the challenge, Mark explained as a Ravager struggled with the rope. It's to work with it. That's how humans climb mountains. We don't fight gravity. We use it to help us keep our balance. Brightwing approached Reed, their crystalline form glowing with peaceful colors. Your crew has changed everything we thought we knew about strength. The Ravagers are already adapting their biotechnology to help terraform harsh worlds instead of conquering them. Reed nodded. Earth taught us that lesson the hard way. Every time we tried to fight nature head-on, we lost. When we learned to work with it, to understand it, that's when we truly became strong. The station's main hall had been prepared for a historic ceremony. Representatives from Earth had finally arrived, ready to sign the first Galactic Cooperation Treaty. The document was unique, written on 3 different materials to accommodate each species' needs. As the human ambassador stepped forward to sign, she smiled at Reed and his crew. You know, when we sent out our first cargo ships, we never expected them to become diplomats. We're not diplomats, Reed replied. We're just people who did what humans always do, help others when they need it, and find creative solutions to tough problems. The Ravager leader, now wearing symbols of peace instead of war, spoke next. Our species sought to prove our strength through conquest. Humans showed us true strength, the power to turn enemies into allies, to transform challenges into opportunities. Speaking of transformation, Kate interrupted, hurrying over with her tablet. The first results from the joint Earth Ravager biology project are in. Their bioships, combined with our Earth bacteria, have developed a new way to clean up toxic environments. We can restore planets we thought were lost forever. The ceremony proceeded, but it was more than just signing documents. Each species demonstrated their unique strengths. Coalition crystals created beautiful light displays. Ravager bioships performed intricate dances in space. And the humans, they shared something that surprised everyone. Art. These are paintings from Earth's history, Reed explained as images appeared on the station's screens. They show our storms, our mountains, our dangerous animals, all the things that try to kill us. But they also show how we learn to see beauty in them. A young coalition being approached Reed after the ceremony. Is it true that humans still choose to climb mountains and dive into oceans even though they don't have to? Reed smiled. That's another lesson Earth taught us. Once you learn to overcome challenges, you start to seek them out, not to prove you're strong, but to remind yourself that you can always grow stronger. As the Thunderchild prepared to depart for its next cargo run, its crew looked different. Coalition crystals now decorated its halls, gifts from new friends. Ravager biotechnology helped strengthen its hull, a symbol of cooperation instead of conflict. So, Mark asked as they pulled away from the station, just another routine cargo run. Reed looked at his crew, human, coalition, and even 2 Ravager trainees eager to learn Earth's ways. Nothing routine about it, but that's the way we like it, isn't it? After all, we're humans. Making the impossible look easy is what we do best. The Thunderchild jumped to hyperspace, carrying with it the promise of a new era. In the end, humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't their strength or their adaptability. It was their proof that even the harshest beginnings could lead to the most beautiful endings.